Move over, Garchomp. There's a new worst Pokemon in town. Hi, everybody. Jake, your resident content cowboy here. Yeehaw. And today I wanted to take a look at the new meta report released by UniteDB.com. I saw this the other day and I was looking through some of the win rates. I'm going to take you over to it here in a second. There's a link in the description. And I think there's some really fascinating stuff to find out. And there is a Pokemon that I've been very critical of that it has the lowest win rate in the entire game. Let me take you on over here. Again, over at UniteDB.com, this is their meta report. You can see that they show here the win rates for some of the Pokemon, or every Pokemon in the game, and you can see what builds is often attributed to that win rate. I think the builds are a little confusing just because I see a couple Pokemon that have builds that I would consider extremely niche, and I think perhaps I actually don't know exactly how this works, but some of these builds are not the top builds for these Pokemon. That being said, it's very cool to see what builds happen to have the highest win rate, despite how many matches they might have been played with them. So when you see Pokemon like Dragonite has the highest win rate in the game right now, followed by Eldegoss, Zarina, Blastoise, Mr. Mime. So you can see a lot of Pokemon that are at the tops of tier lists right here that also happen to be at the top of the win rates. And then there are some surprising ones like Cramorant. I think Cramorant is not in a great position in the game right now, but has a very good win rate. And this is calculated analyzing 110 games from Master Rank players. Hi, I'm realizing I said 110 games. If that was the case, this would be useless information. It's 110,000 games. Correction.
This has been an official Content Cowboy correction. Yeehaw!
I think some of this will change as they continue to analyze games and as the meta continues to evolve, but we see other Pokemon, Wigglytuff, Mamoswine, Machamp actually doing pretty well. And then we start to get under the 50% win rate mark once we get to the Pokemon Talonflame, and then all the way down, all the way at the bottom, Decidueye. As you know, I've been really critical of Decidueye since its release. I think it's quite underpowered. And as you can see, Decidueye is the new worst Pokemon in the game from a win percentage rate. It is the lowest. The next lowest is Absol, Snorlax, Gengar, Garchomp. It's interesting because Snorlax, one of the best Pokemon in the game. However, I'm guessing most of these matches are played solo, and in that sense, it has one of the lowest win rates in the game. As talked about oftentimes, Snorlax is not a super strong solo pick. So if you're analyzing 110,000 matches and a majority of games people play are solo, you could see why Pokemon like Snorlax and Decidueye don't fare particularly well. Continuing to go up, we see Garchomp there is actually beat out by four Pokemon: Gengar, Snorlax, Absol, Decidueye. Above that, Cinderace, Blissey, Zeraora. This is a really interesting report, and you can find out a lot from it. Some of the biggest things you can find out are when you see the largest point swings. So when you look at a Pokemon like Talonflame, it's 50%. It's a coin flip if someone's using Talonflame as to whether they're winning or not. And the coin flip gets a little better slightly if you're picking Dragonite. So more often people are winning with Dragonite. And then the same can be said for Decidueye. More often people are losing with Decidueye. These percentages aren't so devastating that it means you can't pick these Pokemon, but you are going to have the hardest chance statistically of winning if you choose Decidueye, which is something I've felt for a long time. It is one of the hardest Pokemon, especially solo, to make an impact with in the entire game. With looking at this, it doesn't mean that you need to change the Pokemon you're playing necessarily, but it does give you some good information as to why so many people might say Garchomp and Gengar are low-tier Pokemon, and so many people might say that Dragonite is a high-tier Pokemon. This is a really interesting look at the game because this takes a lot of the feel out of it. When I make a tier list, I'm making it based on my personal feelings, who I see win games, who I see contribute to the team winning games, where I see certain Pokemon become less and less viable. I try to bring all of that into my tier list. But what I don't have that this does is raw data. This will tell you, so Jake genius me, I could say I think Dragonite's S tier. But until you look at this stat right here, you could say, well, Jake's wrong. Dragonite's B tier. It's not even close. And then you look at this and you say, it does have the highest win rate in the game right now from master rank players. And then I could tell you that I think Garchomp is bad, and you see it has one of the lowest win rates in the game from master rank players. I think all of this information good, and it can also teach you maybe some Pokemon to play. The most interesting thing will be to see what happens when there are balance changes, because these numbers will change. I hope in a weird way they kind of get rid of old information and start pulling new information once there's a balance change. I don't know how all this works, okay? So don't even, that's not even a good suggestion. But all I'm saying is I'm really interested to see how these numbers shift once we do have some changes. And I'm also interested to see what happens when they kind of get the builds online here, because I recognize what they're saying where they have some of these builds, like for instance Electro Ball Volt Tackle Pikachu. I see that they're saying that is the winningest build for Pikachu. However, that's not the best build for Pikachu. So there's something happening there where builds that are picked less often by top-ranked players, they happen to be winning slightly more with, but the more common build happens to be losing slightly more. I don't know what exactly to make of that. All I'm saying is I wouldn't decide your build based on this. Like, I don't think Power Up Punch Close Combat Lucario is the best Lucario. It's my favorite Lucario. I love that Lucario. It is not the best Lucario. But you get a lot of great information from this site. I think one way that you could use the build win rate data in an interesting way is to notice what builds also happen to be very common. For instance, Mr. Mime with Confusion and Barrier happens to be the most common and best Mr. Mime build. If you kind of know what is used often and then you look at the win rate, I think that can give you some more information. Again, I want more from this build. I wanted a point where we can see all the builds and then how many matches they're found with it, because I think Confusion Barrier is the most often played Mime, but I'm guessing Confusion Barrier Potion is not the most often played. However, that version of Mime has a 56% win rate. And then you look at someone like Talon. Fly Flame Charge, I think, is the most common build used for Talon. Maybe it's not with a Fluffy Tail, though, and that has a 55% win rate. So as you go down, if you're looking at any of these builds, you can kind of get a good idea as to maybe what is closest to the win rate with the most optimal choices for these Pokemon. Sorry if I'm being a little confusing, but basically what I'm saying is some of these builds are not ideal, so I have to assume they come from a smaller sample size of games where people played them, and that just happens to skew the numbers a little bit. But then others, whereas you see Hyper Beam Dragon Dance, Full Heal Dragonite, that seems to be one of the most useful builds for Dragonite. Taking a look at this, are you surprised where any of your favorite Pokemon stack up? Honestly, the Pokemon I was most surprised by is probably Snorlax or maybe Absol, although I'm kind of not surprised to see Absol really low. To see it that low, I think I'm surprised with, and I know we're talking about a few percentage points here, but the difference between a Decidueye at 45% win rate, oops, I need to scroll this down, a Decidueye at 45% win rate and a Dragonite at 53% win rate is huge. I don't know numbers, but that's at least 5% difference, maybe even 8%. I'm unaware. But my point is, when you look at this, you can really tell why certain Pokemon, at least from a solo perspective, are severely lacking. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I found this report to be really, really fascinating. All right, I will talk to you all very soon. Mwah.